Aloha everyone. Today this is part 4 of our Grail journey together. We're going to begin with the macrocosmic Grail, Alpha and Earth's descent into matter. According to the record of Thoth, the point in Earth's descent into matter, where she moved from the realm of the 13 heavens within Mazaloth into the system of 12 heavens under Mazaroth, essentially occurred in the epoch of Nadman. However, as in many times the case, things are not so clearly defined as that in the cosmos. Thoth speaks, understand that as the universal tear or fall in consciousness occurred, the realms of Metatron and Mazaloth were separated from the whole of the universal grid system and compartmentalized. Thus, the Earth at that time, when she moved from the Mazaroth to the Mazaloth, was in the realm of Metatron-Mazaloth initially, but within the parameters of the specific compartmentalized condition. The Earth's planetary consciousness then separated further from the Metatronic Mazalothic compartment in the epoch we have defined as Nadman during the Earth's descent into matter. In order to embrace the concept we are attempting to impart here, it is necessary to realize that all stages of separation from the Metatron, and thus Mazaloth, occurred in multiple formats simultaneously. In this case, a sphere of reality, planetary, within a sphere of reality, universal. This is a difficult view for the current earthbound mind to fully comprehend. From the perspective of its effect on the earth and the souls in her experience, the Mazaloth was still present and aspected in the field of earth on a basic level of receipt until the epoch of Nadman. Now, I would like to add to this that we're dealing with our universal hologram, ours. That means those souls on earth now. So Thoth is trying to give us some kind of quantum understanding of what's going on. And it's difficult to do so because we don't have the background in consciousness and awareness and in simple light mathematics to fully understand it. So he's placing it in terms that are almost symbolic compared to the whole picture. But nevertheless, the bottom line is that our Earth has undergone many separations, not just one. And these separations are based on how we, as souls on this earth, are traveling through our own perceptual dimensions. What we experience there, what we choose to collectively accept and collectively reject. To continue, the movement from a system of 13 heavens to that of 12 heavens occurred as Earth slipped beneath the tide of presence in the Mazaloth, and therefore out of that dimensional experience. When the souls of the Earth ride the cosmic wave into the new Earth star ascended reality, so there will be the first glimmers of the Mazaloth yawning before them once again. Understand, it is not the return into Orion per se that is the ultimate signature of Mazalothic receipt, but the vibration of Mazalothic stellar fields incorporated within the DNA of a human being. When the Adamic race left the great inscription of light, they fully forfeited this vibration. Thus, the return to Orion within the blue star Rigel is an indication that humanity has indeed incorporated the Metatronic Mazalothic stellar frequencies into their DNA to a high enough degree to enable the transition. These souls will then have to continue to align their being to ever higher octaves of these Metatronic Christic frequencies in order to complete the new Earth star cycle successfully. Now, this is kind of going off on another line of thought, so I'm not going to take it too far, but those of you out there that say, well, I'm not from Orion, I'm from the Pleiades, or, Sirius, or Andromeda, or wherever, this does not invalidate that. Just a moment. As I was saying, this does not invalidate that. We're speaking of a world continuum, and if you're here on the planet, you have agreed on your higher soul self in some level to work with this world continuum. And so if no matter what star system your creation star is, or where you were last, because could be two different things, you're here now. And your soul is involved in working with this system. Now, there are cases where certain souls will not continue with this whole continuum until it goes through its transition. But that's rare. Most souls that are here now, no matter where they're from, are here for the long term to get this whole energy cycle completed. And all of these souls are working for that end, or shall we say beginning. So Orion is merely a threshold for that experience for them. And even the souls that come from Orion, come from the blue star Rigel, like mine, it's not the end all for us either, because you can't really divide it up too much. It's like, yeah, well, we started out here and we came here and then we did this and then we went over here and now we're here. But it matters. What matters is what we're doing now, and what we're aligning to and what we're carrying forward. So really, that's as far as we can go in understanding the bigger picture, because in the final analysis, everything is one. So to come back to our subject here, as humanity begins to incorporate these Grail frequencies into their DNA, it will initiate the Earth into a dimensional shift, which will then cause the Earth's rotational axis shift at a physical level, revealing a 13th stellar vector not accessible directly from Earth at this time. Now, we're not speaking here of, I can never pronounce it, Ophiuchus. That's a whole zodiacal thing, different entirely. It doesn't have any bearing, so I'm just mentioning that here. Thus, when the movement into the new Earth star occurs, whereby the new Earth itself finds itself within Rigel, there will be 13 primary stellar thresholds modulating that reality rather than 12. These will not all emanate from constellations familiar to a soul embodied on the current Earth. It is important to understand that in its highest essence, the Mazzaroth is a threshold comprised of 12 stations of living lights, from which for the Earth are aspected through the 12 zodiacal constellations as we view them. If you were to journey in a light ship through the dimensions, you would find these 12 in many different arrangements. Not all worlds in this universe are within the Mazzaroth. Those which are shall share a common placement upon the dimensional grid in the half-light spectrum. So, in some other solar system, well, let's just say some other galaxy, if they were on the same dimensional grid, they'd be receiving these 12 emanations from completely different zodiacal configurations. As the Earth's planetary consciousness descended even further into matter, the Grail consciousness of the cosmic Earth, As the Earth's planetary consciousness descended even further into matter, the Grail consciousness of a cosmic Christ streaming to Earth from the Mazzalothic stellar worlds became increasingly more difficult for the souls embodied upon the earth to access. The consciousness link between the mid-heavens of Mazaloth and the earth was fading fast. The spiritual hierarchy of the earth, in cooperation with the higher councils of light and Orion, orchestrated a plan to assist the souls of this planet in holding open the consciousness gateway to Mazaloth. Before the Earth's fall and subsequent descent into matter, the link between these worlds was much the same as the link in a human being between the autonomous nervous system and the muscles of the heart, which cause it to maintain its regular beat, thus sustaining life without ever consciously thinking about it. After the fall, however, the link became more akin to that between the conscious mind cerebral spinal nervous system, let's say the appendages. In this latter case, a conscious thought has to be elicited prior to the activation of the muscles in an arm before a glass of water can be picked up. This is similar to the state of affairs which existed for humanity after the fall in accessing the higher Metatronic Christic consciousness of the Mazalothic worlds. Thus, no longer was the link to the higher stellar worlds of Mazaloth a given. Rather, the embodied souls found it increasingly necessary to make a conscious effort in order to stay in this higher streaming of consciousness. The hierarchy's plan, then, was to initiate the earth into the generational blood path of the Grail in order to make a stronger link between the higher stellar worlds of Mazaloth and the genetic energy, DNA, of the earth. This was first orchestrated by the Lord Melchizedek, which then opened a path for the entry of the Christ into the earth at a later time through the genetic form of the embodied Yeshua. We will get more into Melchizedek and Yeshua's specific role shortly, and many of the other attendant scenarios which were part of the immense effort in both maintaining the original link to the Metatronic Christic consciousness as well as preparations for the coming of the Christ of Yeshua. Before we do, however, we must come to an understanding of the two different primary Grail paths in the earth, the path of the Whitestone and the generational blood path. The two primary Grail paths, white and red. Thoth. The Atlantean symbology for the generational Grail path of procreation was called the Red Road, or Blood Path. Their name for the path of direct infusion of Grail consciousness into the genetic stream was known as the White Road, or Path of the White Stone. The White Stone is similar in principle to the Philosopher's Stone, and in its most ancient understanding, represents a gleaming or shining pillar of manifest spirit, that is, spirit turned outwardly into the manifest world without any violation of spirit's higher truth. The outer form of the Red Road is exemplified in the life of the Christed Master Yeshua. His mere presence on the earth infused it directly with the divine and altered the entire course of its spiritual evolution. In like manner, albeit perhaps in lesser ways, individual souls currently embodied on the earth may also walk the White Road. The blood path forms the crucible of human generations within the earth. Descended ultimately from the pure Adam Kadmon template into the fallen world. Within this path is found all the human institutions of perpetuation which arise from the desire to extend oneself into future generations. Without this blood consciousness path, humanity would not persist in its survival as a species, nor would it grant the soul the opportunity to evolve through incarnational process. The blood path can be both sacred and evil. Evil in the actions of a Hitler antichristic being, or sacred through the body and blood of a Christed Yeshua. Yet within communion is taken through the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist, and body and blood are transmitted etherically through the host and wine. The blood path is then transformed into the path of the white stone. For the act of this most sacred consummation is a path into grace, and grace is the mantle of the path of the white stone. Thus, through Yeshua's blood path, he opened to us the Christic white stone, or shining pillar of eternal presence, and that is above and beyond all earthly blood bonds and consciousness. Now, I want to just pause here. This is not suggesting that we all have to take communion, like in a church with the sacraments, the rites, and everything. It can certainly be a sacred and positive thing, but I'm not knocking it. But that's not what Thoth is speaking about here. He is speaking about the actual, what that rite means, the truth of it, the internalization of that spiritual consciousness. And that as a rite or a consummation is something that a person can undergo, whether they're a Buddhist or whatever, and they don't have to be an outward display of it. It's an inner process. But it is also a willingness to take upon oneself that spiritual mantle, and you don't have to put it inside any religious doctrine to do so. The red road is by nature opaque, for it impresses its shade and form into all that which it empowers. It is the worldly way, that of due process and linear evolution. It forms a crucible for all that which has been and is to come in the realm of the human experience. It is both the womb and the tomb, the cycles of life from revivification to dissolution, time and time again. It is the law of the red road that whatsoever you create within its crucible, so that creation must return to the same cup from whence it arose. It is the white road that carries you beyond the blood cup and into the realm of the superlate, where divine presence sustains the form into eternity. Yet the white and red roads do and must interact upon the earth at this time. It is necessary for an individual stepping onto the higher paths of evolution to recognize the directional flow of current between the two. When the directional flow of spiritual energy current is from red to white, when the directional flow of spiritual energy current is from red to white, matter is being drawn upon to feed spirit. In this manner, the red road colors are all work of the spirit with its shade, and therefore spirit assumes the nature of the blood realm. When the directional flow of current is from white to red, the divine presence is being inserted directly into the blood path, and therefore holds no allegiance to the red road, for it was not birthed in the crucible of the blood cup, and yet it influences its evolutionary expansion. Only in this way can spirit work unrestrained from the strong magnetic ties of the blood path. Now, I really need to stop here. First of all, my apologies again, reading so poorly. It's my eyesight. But this is really, to me, at the crux of just about everything you want to name on this planet. So I'm just going to go over it with you just a little bit again. So when the red moves, when the current of the red is from red to white, matter is being drawn upon to feed spirit. In this manner, the red road colors all the work of the spirit with its shade, and therefore spirit assumes the nature of the blood realm. Now we can see that taking place so much on the earth now, even in the best of intentions and the finest of spiritual religious pursuits, and not the more shadier side, but the finer side, even in that, there is this influence. And not just in religion, within anything and everything. Now, when the directional flow of current is from white to red, the divine presence is being inserted directly into the blood path and therefore holds no allegiance to the red road, for it was not burst in the crucible of the blood cup, and yet it influences its evolutionary expansion. Only in this way can spirit work unrestrained from the strong magnetic ties of the blood path. That is where we are going. And that we're right on the edge of it, and we're already beginning to work in it. Some of us are, in various places and ways, we're beginning to do that. And on the greater world scene, we can see that beginning to happen with the movements of what's going on in the United States with the grassroots movement that Bernie has stirred up. And there, it's also evident in other countries and other places. These things are beginning to happen. That doesn't mean that it's perfected by any means. Even in these movements, there's still the blood, the red is still influencing the white in certain areas, but in other areas, in other ways, the white is beginning to influence the red. And this is where we're going, and we can see it beginning to happen now. To continue. It is for this reason that certain groups of individuals who have been given hierarchical sanction to establish earthen stations of light are being guided by the hierarchy to free these focuses from being sustained directly by the red road, which incorporates all worldly profit-oriented exchanges. If the light focus is dependent on the exchange of its services for its survival, its directional current is from red to white. It is therefore trapped within the cyclic function of the blood path, and thereby owes allegiance to that path. This is not to say that monetary exchange for services and products, etc., cannot be part of that station of light's reality, but only as a result of true service, and not as a necessary means of survival. So again, we have to go back and look at the current state that's going on in the United States right now. I'm just taking this as an example. It's not the only thing, but it's one I'm most familiar with, and it's in my reality as part of this American structure here. And that is, and I think it's very dramatic too, and that is, okay, what did Bernie Sanders do? He refused big corporate money, and for a good reason, but let's take it out of that reason. Okay, let's put it into this higher place of understanding. That was the big kahuna of indebtedness, the blood path, the tribal path. You were indebted to your tribe, whether it's an oil company or whatever. He took it out of that. Well, he still had to have money, so he went to individual donors. So he's still, working with the red to white to some degree. However, it's a much lesser degree, because the people that gave this money were giving it for a cause that they truly believed in the heart, not just for themselves, because many that gave it were not as in need as many others that needed and couldn't give it, So there's a process, an ongoing process working right there in that movement to change the flow of the current of monetization and what that means in this world. Okay, let's move out of that particular scenario and think about it in another way. All of us out there are doing something to try to make a living. And whether it's, working in Dairy Queen or doing the kind of thing I do or something, we have to do something because that's the way the world is geared right now. And, we're always thinking, well, maybe we can move to the barter system and this would be so much better, and it would. Indeed, it would. However, no matter what we're doing on the surface with playing this game, we are needing to move our consciousness into a place that says, I serve a value. I'm a value in this world. I was incarnated here for a purpose. I may not know exactly what that purpose is, or I may, but none of us really know what the ultimate purpose is. But we all know, we take it for granted. Every single person you meet on the street is here for a purpose, and that purpose aligns in some way to your purpose. And I don't care if this is, somebody that's sneaking up on you in an alley and about to stab you in the back. We're all here for a purpose. That person may be way off track as to what their true purpose is, and they're struggling like heck to find it, and you better move out of the way while they do it. But nevertheless, if you were like a true master being, you'd simply turn around and look that person in the eye and share that awareness with them, and they'd drop the knife immediately. I have no doubt about it. But only if you could do it to that degree. You could cast out all fear, all anger, all repressive feelings, and just send incredible love to them. It's not about furry, fuzzy love. It's about truth and understanding and awareness, and that is love. That is the true love. Of course, completely surrounded with compassion, but if you have the others, you have compassion. So, what we need to be doing right now, more than anything, is recognizing our value as an individual and recognizing that we need to be supported, or should be supported, or will be supported, because the universe supports us. But we hold it back from supporting us in the highest regard ways with our own feelings around all of this. And we all serve. We don't, we're not just, if anybody just sits around and just watches TV all day and doesn't do anything, they're going to dissipate into nothingness. One way or another, because it's not what they really truly want to be doing. Everybody wants to be serving this earth and other human beings. Everybody does. But those people have become maybe so helplessly detached, they don't know what else to do. Or maybe they're so ill and they don't know what else to do. But the point is, it's our intrinsic need, and more than need, I want to use another word, instinct to serve. And there are ways that we can all work to do that together. And while we're still in a monetary system, I think it's important for us to as a whole, to come to the recognition that if we have even $1 to spare, let's support something with it, or someone that we feel is of value, whether it's an organization or a person, an individual person. It doesn't, even if it's just $1, because the energy transference is so important. Okay, that was quite a speech. Let me go on now with the text. But I thought that pretty important to kind of go into, because that's really what I believe Thoth is targeting there, or at least on the level that I can understand it. So to continue, again, we reiterate that the path of the white stone is the generation of a frequency of superlate being that permeates all with which it comes into contact, and beyond that radius, through the law of transduction, relays energy from one field to another ad infinitum. Those souls who involve themselves in the service of maintaining the physical path of these appointed stations of light become transducers of that vibration themselves. Further, in submitting to the process of this service, so each individual involved will undergo his/her own deep inner experience with the white road versus the red road, as they must release the old path in order to be received of the new. Now, this is the releasing of the old path of how one understands and relates to the red road. Because earlier he said the red road and the white road are still, we still need the red road in certain of its aspects on this earth while we're here to continue our blood lineage consciousness at this time. But the white is absorbing it more and more and more. So here he's indicating that our experience needs to shift more and more to the white road. Now, when the Christos bore the mantle of its host Yeshua and walked thereby upon the earth, he was the living white stone come amongst you. His presence instructed your souls and built them up as towers of light into the sky. Even for those not incarnate in his time, this is so. Now, he's speaking again outside of the religious context of this human being who was also embodying these high-frequency Christic energies. And so he's also speaking of all human beings on the planet receiving of it. Don't have to believe in Christian doctrine to do so. Christ did Master Yeshua, while embraced in his glory, tithed the blood path, giving his body and blood into the earth through the way of suffering, so that earth's humanity might be able to free itself from the crimson sash, the blood path symbolized in Atlantean temples by the wearing of a crimson sash. As he laid himself down into the blood crucible, so he took up eons of karmic suffering upon himself, and through the pure presence of the divine within him, he washed the world clean and bade it to be restored through his being. Even in the moment that this was accomplished, the world plunged its heart once again into the ruby cup, returning to the blood principle. Yet out of this act of pure devotion to the world, there was a single bright and shining seed, remaining unscathed by the renewed vow of humanity to perpetuate the red road. So it remained unscathed from this. That word should be from this. It remained unscathed from the renewed vow to perpetuate the red road. This one single seed survives within the holy matrix of the heart cup within the Whitestone. It is tenderly guarded by the angels of Christ and transplanted ever again into the hearts of the new Hierophants, to whom the scriptures of light are revealed. And who are these new Hierophants, but all souls who come to desire the path of the white road so completely as to put nothing before them that is not a way to this path. And how could we think about this, okay? To put nothing before them, but is not a way to this path. Well, perhaps truly in your heart of hearts knowing that you need to serve or follow a particular energy in the earth, a particular devotion. By devotion, I'm not talking about, signing yourself over to a religion or something. I mean a devotion within, whether it's to climb Mount Everest or to live in a certain place for a period of time, to go there, to seek this, to seek that. And you're thinking, well, gosh, I don't want to take the little money I have and do that. And what about my job? How can I survive? And, all these things come up. Now, this is a very fine line because, first of all, you really need to be with this. Is this truly what's calling you, or you just want to get away from it all? And, there's a lot of reasons why you might. But do you want to, is it really coming from that spiritual self? If you feel that it is, and you've been with it long enough to really know that it is, so then how do you take that step to do it? You can't starve to death in the process, or you can't say, well, I'm going to trust. I'll just step off this cliff. Some angel's going to come and just lift me up to the heights, and I'll be fine. That's not necessarily what unconditional belief is about, because there's always necessary element of reason. Thoth calls it what does he call it? The logi or something. It's out of the word logic, or the logic form, or whatever. You have to use your head as well as your heart. And so it's something to be with and to understand what feels right at the same time looking at what the current situation is. However, when you've done that and you've looked at all how it might be accomplished, and maybe you come to a wall and you say, I just don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But it's just calling me, calling me, calling me. There are those instances where perhaps you have to step off the cliff in order to really see what that fulfillment is. And there are no guarantees that it's going to take you where you think it's going to take you. But if you're in your true heart center and you've looked at all options to make this happen without stepping off the cliff, in some instances, stepping off the cliff is the right thing to do at that point. So, this is an element to look at. But what it all boils down to is that it's your decision. It's not some higher being's decision. It's not, some assignment that you've been given. It's your own soul calling you. And there are always various ways you can implement that calling. You don't have to do it any one way. Okay, let's go back to the text again. The holy matrix, which is given the name of Hebron, is that which contains the sweetest nectar of the heart cup, I think I missed something here. I talked so much I can't remember what I read last. So let me look back here and see. I'm going to check to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yes, I missed quite a bit. So let's go back to this. Here we are. To hold divine presence in the earth is not a virtue held exclusively for angels and gods. It abides at the very foundation of the human experience as God-engendered consciousness made flesh. Such an act requires only a great and loving desire to serve Spirit beyond the manifestations of personal will and power, identity, or cause. Yeshua called to the apostles, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." So they set down their nets and followed him, not looking behind them. The Master Yeshua was summoning these humble men to walk with him upon the white road. In that moment, so they desired nothing, sought nothing, imagined nothing, but that which was before them through the vision of Christ, the white pillar, the shining stone. He did not then persuade these men, nor did he magnetize or enchant them. He instead was so completely in presence that these fishermen could not dispute what was before them. The divinity within their souls was compelled by the holy presence of the Christ in Yeshua to follow its natural inclination of spirit, which was to abide solely upon the white and shining way. So each soul embodied in the earth may in kind follow the living stone, which is the pillar of Christ upon the white road. They may know at a moment's notice this presence in their midst, which in turn lights in their souls the very same flame. To become presence in the earth embraces the entire light program of the universal hierarchy for the souls of the earth. No oath, practice, surrender, contemplation, or service beyond this is required. So, I have to pause here and say what I was saying before of contemplation, and this is all a part of the human experience of process, and it's a value. But if you were to receive the white shining pillar of light, you wouldn't need any of that, and you wouldn't think, well, do I need it or not? You wouldn't absolutely know what was before you. So let's continue. Through the blood path, the Earth's light program can be completed. Yet it will be thousands, if not millions of years in the doing. By taking up the path of the white stone, and thus assuming the Christic mantle, not in a religious but in a spiritual sense, which may be embraced by souls upon the path of any God-based religion, so eons are erased from the karmic clock, and mankind is in the moment at the throne of God. This is the whole purpose of the Christ, both universally and in the earth, to offer a path of grace, a path of absolution so complete as to eradicate even the need for a hierarchy beyond this foundation of light, the Christ. The holy matrix, which is given the name of Hebron, is that which contains the sweetest nectar of the heart cup, for it feeds the multitude from but a single drop. The holy matrix of Hebron is a living temple in the etheric, which calls forth divine issuance from the souls who seek to serve the heart cup at the center of the white stone. For the soul who cries, "I am thy vessel, O Lord," so the holy matrix opens its flowered cup, and the stone becomes the elixir of eternal life. A stone contains an impenetrable surface, hard and smooth to the touch. The alchemy of love causes the surface of the stone to become transparent as a crystal, to reveal the living flower within. Initiates of the flower see through the surface of the stone in the veil as the veils part for them. Each of the 7 veils, or manifests, contain a vibrational essence that is both revealing and commanding. Once gazing upon the interior of the manifest, the soul cannot but come forth from the tomb. It becomes an act beyond conscious choice. Yet the conscious mind is given enlightenment as to the movement at hand, for within the vibration of Hebron, the mind is privy to the heart's passage. Once the path of the white stone is entered to the degree of the holy matrix of Hebron, the etherization, I can't say that word, etherization of the blood does and indeed must take place, for in order to become the presence of the white stone, so the blood of the body must diminish its resonance with the frequency of the blood path. Let me read that again. I have to grasp it myself. Once the path of the white stone is entered to the degree of the holy matrix of Hebron, the etherization of the blood does and indeed must take place, for in order to become the presence of the white stone, so the blood of the body must diminish to its resonance with the frequency of the blood path, although not entirely, at least not within the workings of the holy matrix of Hebron. So this is where the blood becomes sapphire. At least it will if you keep moving in that direction. And with the sapphire blood, S-A-F-F-I-R-E, you have the pure gem body. The soil of the red road is tilled by the blood. The soil of the red road is tilled by the blood suffering of the human element in its attempts to purify the body to the state of the soul. There are a few incarnate in this age who have opened the scroll to the vision of the macrocosm, and as a result can apply this vision to move beyond the purification type rendering of the blood path. This not only releases them from the way of suffering to achieve spiritual oneness with God, the complete presence of the white road, but it also gives souls a measure of immunity from the many intricate fields of human expression that supply the grist for the mill of the blood-suffering consciousness. This in turn allows them to do the great work on a level unfettered by the blood path. However, not even the Christ incarnate was intended to completely separate from the blood path, for there must be a link between the two roads in order for the earth to pass through the eye of the needle, the star Grail of ascension. But evermore shall humanity come to unchain itself from the red road, so that it may truly know the white way, and yet still serve the blood path from a higher evolutionary position upon the sacred tree. And so that concludes our reading and my commentary for today. And this ends our Grail video number 4. I look forward to sharing number 5 with you.